You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Zeona McIntyre.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Zeona McIntyre, aka Z Money. Z, how you doing today?
Dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped about today because I literally found out about this guy I want to say 3 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, and I just fell down the rabbit hole. I found out about him because he responded to a comment in one of my YouTubes, and then I realized he had a whole YouTube channel, and then I went and listened to a bunch of his podcasts. So we've got Jesse Vasquez on our show today. I'm finally learning how to say his last name, but I'm really excited about him because he's doing medium-term rentals a little bit differently. He is specifically making relationships with people in the medium-term rental placement agencies, like medical placement agencies, insurance placement, and those people are paying as much or even more than short-term rentals in the same area. And so this can really level up your cash flow and, I don't know, just make you cool and awesome like him.
Zeona, are you Jamaican?
I am Jamaican. Did you not know that?
I did not know you were Jamaican.
Crying.
No, every time I see your name, I'm like, damn, that's a Jamaican name. So if you listen all the way to the middle or / end of the episode, we talk about Zeona, the genesis of Zeona's name. And I would never have placed you as a Jamaican. But it kind of makes sense with your personality, I guess. Anyway, Jesse's episode is super inspiring and is really reassuring in the medium-term rental space and assuring that anybody listening to this, that you're on the forefront of it. And so, test it out on your first house hack or your second house hack or whatever it is, right? You don't need to, when you're in the beginning, like many of you guys may be right now, you're just testing the strategies. I did a long-term rental. I've done medium-term rentals. I've done all of those, right? And so I'm like, okay, how do I figure out which one actually works the best and which one do I like the most? And the medium-term rental that I did was an accidental medium-term rental, and I had a horrible guess. And so I've been scared of that ever since. I'm just now getting into okay, let me go back to the medium-term rental because there's so many people that are doing it and it's working. So Jesse offers some crazy good advice. And honestly, the best piece of advice he offers is at the very end, even after we do the final four. So definitely listen through to the end and let's get to the show. But before we do, I want to leave you with a little advertisement. If you are thinking about getting your real estate license and you are anywhere in the US and you are interested in helping out investors and being an investor-friendly agent, definitely hit me up. You can just go right on Instagram. I'm the Fi Guy on Instagram. Give me a follow if you haven't already. Shoot me a message and we'll definitely have a conversation about how we may be able to potentially work together. Now, back to the show. Jesse Vasquez, welcome to the show, my dude. How you doing today?
What's up, man? I like your mustache, Craig. I wish I can grow something like that. You see this here? This is a Speedy Gonzalez stash that I got.
I see.
It's the only Hispanic style I can get.
I see
this
that
has
you're
been
trying.
growing, by the way, Zeona.
Is that full grown?
It's not. This is about 2 years. So for those of you that are watching, this is 2 years worth of a mustache. So
wow, I think Zeona might have some more mustache game.
Yeah, I might have a better mustache.
Yeah.
I'm also Latin,
Zeona.
so we are blessed with mustaches sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I grow no hair. If I could take my shirt off, you guys can see my armpits. I have no armpit hair at all, and I don't shave it. I swear to God. So
that's
weird.
That's actually not a bad thing. Anyway, how do we get here?
Well,
let's go. Let's talk.
Craig.
Yeah.
No. Armpit hair and
and
investing so mixed.
Yeah, before we know, Jesse's gonna have his shirt off, showing off his back hair and his armpit hair.
Oh yeah, man.
But why don't we talk?
Let's
before we start talking about that. Let's hear a little bit about your real estate story and how you first heard about financial independence.
Yeah, so Zeona and I've actually been following Zeona for quite some time now. Craig, you were on my podcast like months ago and totally forgot about me, which I understand. I'm cute but forgettable. But yes, I heard of Zeona for quite some time, and she has been she's awesome. Like the midterm stays, all that stuff's been something I've been into. So that's how I heard of the show. And then Craig, you forgot about me, so it's all right, man.
If you had a better stash or slightly more back hair, I think I'd remember you
I
more.
know,
But
man.
maybe next time.
I know.
But
Well,
so how
hey,
did you get?
I have no
yeah.
armpit hair, so there you go.
Armpit hair. Yeah. How did you get this thing? How did you get started in real estate? Where did that all come from? Like, where were you before that?
Yeah, so I got started in real estate in 2015. I worked in the healthcare sector as a business development manager. So basically, it's just a fancy way of saying sales rep. For those of you listening, I worked for the hospital system, and my job was to have clinicians or doctors to come get privileges at hospitals. And I also worked in the home health division where we'd have patients that would be discharging to go home and say, Craig, you fell and broke your hip. My job was to go to the hospital and get you as a referral to come home so a nurse or a therapist can visit you at your property. And as I was doing this, I started realizing that there was clinicians that were traveling all the hospitals I would go to. There would be these really heavy, beautiful Midwestern Fargo accents, and these folks would say things like, don't you know? And, like really cool things that we don't hear like that in California. Nobody talks like that in California. Everybody says dude and bro and man, just like I do. And I would ask these clinicians, like, what are you doing here? And they would say, we're travel nurses. We're here on assignment. We're here for 3 months. I asked where they were staying. They said Motel 6 on 9th Street, which was a heavily prostituted area back in 2015. And I was trying to figure out why the heck they were staying there. They told me they were paying $3,000 a month. And back in 2015, Craig and Zeona, the 2015 was a great time to buy real estate. In the Central Valley, you could buy a property for $250K. And your mortgage payment would be about $1,200. So my brain started kind of spinning as I was hearing more and more clinicians that were coming into this market. And I brought my first property in 2015 to house travel medical professionals directly because I saw the need.
Great. So it sounds like you trying to go there, Craig? You trying to go into the...
You go ahead. You trying to go to the same place as me? Are we on the same page?
So
See, are we on the same
we're on the
wavelength?
same page.
Are you guys telepathic right now? What's going on here?
Yeah,
We are. So it
about to
sounds
be-
like this is your for real deal.
The for real deal.
Yeah,
and
we're
not
just
only
being
that,
nerds.
but Jesse is an OG travel nurse midterm rental, doing it before Zeona thought it was cool.
That's
right?
true. Yeah. So your for real deal is the first deal that you do as an investor, whether or not you were intentional about it. So tell us about your first deal in deep dive. How much you paid for it? What do you rent it for? How do you find it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so there is a really beautiful area in Central California. In Modesto, there's a place called the College area. It's where everybody wants to go. When I was going to school, I would walk these neighborhoods. There were like these beautiful tree-lined streets. And I'm like, I'm going to buy a house here one day. This was back in like 2002, before you guys were probably born. And that's the area I always wanted to buy a property. So for my first space, I found this home for $300K. Beautiful home. The great thing about these neighborhoods, you guys, is that you can have a $300,000 property right in one spot, and then right next door is like a $1 million property, even back then. So the appreciation of that neighborhood's always been fantastic. It's like an A-class neighborhood. So I picked that place up for $300K. My mortgage payment was $1,350 with principal, interest, all that stuff in there. I got a contract with Doctors Medical Center back in 2015. They were paying $4,000 at that time for a travel nurse or travel nurses for that particular property. So I was all in for about $1,800. That's including water, sewer, garbage, electrical, all that other fun stuff that comes along. So about $1,800. So what is 18 minus 4? 2,200. Am I right? My math skills here,
Yeah, that's
guys. Anybody help me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Help me here.
I'm terrible at math,
Yeah,
so
so I was-
Craig's the one. He's like Rain
Yeah,
Man
okay.
over here, just crunching numbers. But yeah,
Yeah, I've
great.
been,
just
I've
saw
been
him,
counting
yeah.
cards the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, you count cars and you boxer shorts, Kmart, 100 Oak Street. I have that whole movie memorized, you guys. So if you want to pick apart, I'll just kind of go through it. So yeah, that was my first deal, you guys. So at that point, cash flowing $2,000, everybody was like, "You are not even telling the truth. Like this is fake." And I'm like, "No, this is freaking real. Here's my bank account. I'm going to show you guys." So back in those days, you had to have like 50 doors to make $2K. And I was able to do it with just one beautiful, somewhat decent door.
I love that, man. My question for you, this is like before, right? This is kind of like OG, like before Furnish Finder. So you're kind of like an early mover to this midterm rental space. Maybe Furnish Finder was around, but it certainly is not as popular as it is now. Um, how like can somebody today that wants to do medium term rental go to these doctor associations and create relationships with them and do it the same way if they wanted to like maybe circumnavigate Furnish Finder and have less competition?
Yes, and
100%.
that's
Yeah,
why we
you
brought
can.
Jesse on.
Mm. Oh, there's a reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a
yeah.
reason.
There's always an agenda, Craig.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
We always have
always
a
an
plan to
agenda.
help somebody else. Now, come on, give us spill the
Yeah.
beans.
So I mean, yeah, you can totally create relationships with these facilities, and I think that this is a great way to build a sustainable long-term business and not rely on Furnish Finder, which I love, by the way, or Airbnb and all these other OTAs. It is by far the best and smartest way to get cash flow and to actually build a sustainable business. It's going to give you a long roadway and not rely on these OTAs because a lot of times, OTAs can change at any moment. Furnish Finder, I don't know what's going to change or anything that could potentially happen. But yeah, you just pick up a phone, Craig and Zeona, and literally just start calling these agencies and connecting.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna got a couple questions for you. One, what's an OTA? And two, I want to talk about calling these agencies. But first, tell us what an OTA is.
OTA is an online travel agency like Vrbo or Airbnb or
Okay.
Booking.com. Those are online travel agencies. Or
Okay.
even Furnish Finder, I mean, could be considered an online travel agency, I think, right? Maybe,
Ish.
possibly, kind of, sort
I
of,
think,
ish.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're more like a lead gen. I think what makes an OTA is that you can book online and you can't do that with
directly, yeah.
Furnish Finder.
Okay.
Yeah,
They will
Okay.
do
Gotcha.
that. They're going to do that soon.
Okay.
probably.
They
And
will.
so
I know
you've
they will.
got you circumnavigate the OTAs by getting these phone numbers. How do you get these phone numbers? How do you what is the script that you use? Like how do you pitch this to other doctors? And what if they already got a bunch of people on the list?
Yeah, perfect. So, can we do a little experiment while we're on this call right now?
Yeah,
Ziona, you
that
want to
Yeah,
sounds
do me a
fun.
like
favor?
experiments.
All right, cool.
What?
All right, head over to Indeed.com and just type in travel RN Boulder, Colorado, and tell me how many leads pop up right there. I'm giving you guys all a little insider tip into the world of cold calling,
Yeah.
specifically to
So
agencies.
you look, okay, so there's 550 jobs in Boulder,
Mm-hmm.
Colorado, which is crazy because
Yep.
I have two medium-term rentals in Boulder, and most of the time we don't even rent to nurses. So I was like, ah, there just must not be any here. But I just
Yeah.
get like digital nomads and like other people. But
Mm-hmm.
wow, 550 jobs.
Yep. Yeah. So what that actually is telling you right there, Ziona, and this is just Indeed. This is not even Monster Jobs or other. This gives us. This is kind of what I start to do when I analyze markets. I'll look at what the demand is, how many schools there are in that specific market that folks can go to RN school. I'll actually call those schools and find out how many of those folks are staying in those markets because they have data that kind of tells us what that looks like. So the jobs alone, that's 540 leads that you could pick up the phone and start dialing over the next month and start connecting with these agencies and find out if they even do corporate contracts, if they handle specific doctors. So there's a ton of legwork that you have to do on the back end. It is not for the faint of heart. It is extremely difficult to do this. So I'm going to caution everybody now. You can't just call and expect to get a booking. I talk to folks on a regular basis who are like, hey, Jess, I tried calling. I followed all your Instagram things and nobody's answering. And I'm like, how many people did you call? And they're like 5. And I'm like, dude, you need to 10x what you're doing. Like this, you have to like have a scale. This is just like business to business. You got to put in the time, the energy, the effort, at least an hour or two a day to actually data mine and grab information from these folks.
And just to
I love
kind
that you
of
guys raise your
like,
hands.
yeah, we're raising our hands because there's three of
Usually.
us and it gets confusing. But
Yeah.
I just want to like clarify for some people, like you can fully have your place booked with Airbnb and Furnish Finder, but what people don't know is that Furnish Finder is actually like the discount place for people to go direct. So if someone gets a stipend, they just want to go direct to Furnish Finder. But if you're going to put in this legwork, instead of having 1.5 times market rent, you can have 2 times. You can basically get the same amount that a short-term rental can bring in, but doing it on a
Or more.
medium-term basis or more.
Yeah.
So that's why
Right.
this is worth the legwork. And once you build those relationships, I imagine you can use them again and again. You don't necessarily have to start from scratch.
Yeah, the relationships that I build back from the business development world that I was in, everything around healthcare, you guys, is based on contracts. So whether you're a clinician, whether you're a traveling nurse, whether you're an RN that works on the floor, whether you're a maintenance keeper in the hospital, everything's based around contracts. And that's one of the things that I learned in the hospital atmosphere is that, um, everything's based around contracts. So why shouldn't housing be? And it is. And that's something that, I learned early in 2015 that it is potentially possible to create contracts with agencies and hospitals for direct placement of these travel medical professionals.
So, like, let's talk like tactics a little bit here. So, I type in travel RN and insert my city. I did it in mine. I got 40 travel nurses, so not as great as Boulder maybe. Um, and but I still have 40, and so I would go ahead and call. Like, I'm looking at like medical solutions and favorite healthcare staffing, and I would just call these people and say, hey, do you guys do contracts with furnished rentals? And like, can I be on your list, or how does that work?
Let's do a
Yeah,
sample.
so just
Ring,
so you
ring,
guys,
Jesse. Tell us what you
yeah.
tell them.
Yeah, ring ring.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, one of the first things that I talk about is, I talk about being a housing solutions provider specifically for travel medical professional. I'll start naming local hospitals in the market so these folks are familiar. I will set up a Zoom call, and this is why I'm different than everybody else, Zeona and Craig. I will create a Zoom call today with these folks. So say, Craig, you're a recruiter, and I'm like, hey, Craig, I want to connect with you. Let's have a call tomorrow. Can you tell me what office you're working in and what your address is? So I will get every single person that's in that office. I'll get their email address. I'll find out what their favorite Starbucks drink is, and I'll make sure that we order Panera. And then as I'm sitting down having a conversation with you and your entire team, you guys are eating lunch. So I talk about what we do, how we operate. I will show slides of our properties. I will have previous tenants that say that our nurses, we do like little clips, and they'll say like, this place was great. Here's a quick walkthrough. Here's something that I loved. There's a great little market right around the corner. So they'll have actually like true, real, full experience of what actually happened in that property. And they're not going to forget about me. I'm the only person sending them Starbucks, creating drinks. I see Ziona there, right? Taking notes.
I'm taking notes. I mean, I don't know if I'm that nice, but we could be halfway. I'll
Yeah.
send a box of cookies. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is that when you're building with businesses, like you have to be nice. Like you have to be like,
Yeah.
it's all about them. It's not about us. It's not about making money. It's about these clinicians. And the more problems you can solve, a lot of these agencies have holes in them that they don't know how to necessarily solve. And you have to discover those. You got to ask a ton of questions, how they're finding clinicians. You could potentially even match them with clinicians and recruiters. Just so you guys know, recruiters are basically sales reps. For everybody listening right now or watching this, they get paid on a percentage of the travel medical professional. So if they make 60 grand in those 3 months, those recruiters make a percentage of it. So if you have housing, you're automatically, you're going to help them in a way. And the more problems you can solve, the more you're able to help people, the better that your potential outcome is going to be. So that's just a word of thumb with anybody in any space. I mean, look at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. They solved a million problems, right? Which is why they're billionaires. So if you think about it on a small scale, you solve these small problems with these agencies, you're able to create something that is going to be sustainable and you're going to be easy to deal with, which is by far the most important thing, it makes their jobs easier to connect with you.
Great. So let's continue on your journey because I think this is really interesting for people. Once you saw what was possible, actually made it work for yourself, what did you want to do? Did you want to go out and get 10 more places, or were you like, let me just get one more? Like what happened next?
Yeah, so I started buying a property every year. So I would just save the $2,200. I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything with it unless there was like some unforeseen circumstance. Like I did have an AC unit go out, and that was $8,000 to fix in my second year. But yeah, so I would just save all the cash. It was like 24,000 and some change every year, and I would just go buy another property every single year. To today, I have 10 properties. 6 are in the Central Valley, and then I have some kind of spread out all over the place. But yeah, I do the same kind of thing now. So now we're actually buying more multi-units as opposed to single family, which is what I was buying before.
And so when you were first starting out, right? Is it weird to go into and sit down into a meeting room with a bunch of doctors or whatever and kind of pitch your one property? Like now you've got 10, 11, you can kind of show it off. You like look a lot more professional when you've got like a portfolio. But how is it if someone's just getting their first one or their second one? Is that strategy still work? Does that check out?
Yeah, 100%. You can have no properties and still create lead generation, just like you guys did right now. Start calling, create a landing page that talks about what you do, how you operate, the markets you're into. I think the more transparent you are about starting, especially if you only have your first property, people tend to like really resonate with that, especially if you're like, hey, look, this is a business I've started. I've spent a lot of time educating myself in the space. I picked up 30-day stays. I'm reading these kinds of things. I'm learning about how to, work in this specific market. People really resonate with that, and folks want to help people that are just starting in a lot of these places. So, when my first property, I knocked on the HR department door and just said, hey, I want to pick up a property. I've been in this place for many years now. I want to house these professionals. They're staying at Motel Frickin' 6. How do I do that? And they just were like, hey, we're totally open to this. There's nobody doing this in this space right now. If you're able to create more properties, then we can use you on a regular basis. So that's how that conversation originally started.
All right, so I'm going to jump in here. We're going to take a little pause and put in an ad. So it's perfect timing. He just mentioned our book, 30-Day Stay, A Real Estate Investor's Guide to Mastering the Medium-Term Rental. And what a lot of you don't know is that Jesse right now is working on a bonus chapter. So I'm lighting you up, Jesse. Hopefully you are working on that bonus chapter.
I am.
But good. So he's working on a bonus chapter because I didn't find Jesse until after the book was done. And I was like, oh no, we need to have this in the book. So there is new information happening all the time. This is cutting edge. And I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So go to biggerpockets.com/30-day stay. And use code Zeona for 10% off. And that is Zeona. Thanks. Back to the show. Oh man, Invisalign. It makes me have a lisp. I'm not a huge fan of it, I gotta say, guys.
Hey, I got a lisp.
Invisalign. Yeah, we can also start talking like 50 if you want.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
So,
I like it.
So Jesse, let's just go into a deep dive on the second property because I think it's just important for people. A lot of our listeners are like either buying property one or looking for number two, and they're just kind of early on. So when you saw like, okay, I can buy in this beautiful area, the college area, I love that. Did you just go buy down the street in the same little market, or did you find something new with the next one?
Yeah, that was a good question, Zeona. And your name's cool, by the way. Do you have like super hippie parents that just decided they were going to name you Zeona? Because I've never heard that name before.
Yeah, I was born in
Super
Jamaica, so it's after
Really?
Zion. Yeah.
Freaking
So
cool,
it was
man.
going to be Ziona, and then it changed. So Ziona. Yeah.
There you go. I like your name. So, my second property, that's what we were talking about, right? Or just that
Yes.
area. Never mind. Yeah, so I bought right down the street. I bought right down the street because I'm sandwiched between a doctor's medical center and Memorial Medical Center. These are both trauma level 1 hospitals, which is they have more higher acuity patients that come in there, which means they need to have more travel medical professionals. And that's something you definitely want to look into. Level 1 and level 2 hospitals tend to have way higher amount of folks that are coming in because of the like the ICUs are typically bigger, and there's a ratio in California. You have to have one ICU patient for two. There has to be 2 nurses for one ICU patient. So just keep that in mind when you're like checking hospitals and you see how big these hospitals are. The more ICU beds there are, the more clinicians you need to have. So that's just a quick little tidbit. But yeah, bought same neighborhood.
Yeah. So just tell us the numbers on this property. Was it still that cheap, or by then it started going up in value?
Yeah, I actually picked this place up for $275. My mortgage payment was, I think it was $1,250. I think $1,255, and that was all in. And back then, I think the interest rate was like 3%, three and a quarter. So same deal. Actually, I got a contract with a company called AMN Healthcare. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them. They are a national travel agency, and AMN Healthcare at that time was paying me $5,000 for a 3-bed with a nook, which is basically a studio that we converted into a bedroom. So it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And just so you guys know, I typically like to buy 2 single-family homes because it gives me multiple different avenues that I can house insurance companies, which is a huge play for me in my game right now. And I can house travel medical professionals. You don't want to just put all your eggs in the healthcare industry. You want to spread around and make sure that you have multiple different, clients that you're going to have in your property. Because if not, sometimes healthcare professionals come in waves.
So I love hearing this because I've been telling people, hey, what I see and just the properties I have been 1 and 2 bedrooms. And so I'm scared of bigger properties, even though I come from the world of short-term rentals and that's like bigger the better. But it's nice to hear that actually 3.2s work well. So I'm going to let Craig ask his question, but then after I got more, I'm excited.
Yeah. So Jesse, you just made my day by saying that 3.2s are okay, and I'm going to tell you why. So we are under contract right now. By the time this airs, we'll likely have closed, hopefully, on a large. It's a 5-bed, 3-bath in Coeur d'Alene. Now the 1-bed, 1-bath part of that is just a studio, so that's going to be an Airbnb. But 4-bed, 2-bath is going to be travel nurses, and so. I've asked pretty much everybody I know that knows anything about medium-term rental this question. So what do you think about our idea? This was my wife's wonderful idea of having 2 travel nurses in a 4-bed, 2-bath so that each person has their own bedroom and an extra room for storage or anything else that they may need. And so it's still enough space and all that stuff. Like, would you say yay or nay on that?
I would say no, and I would say that I would go after the travelers who are coming in groups. Sorry to your wife. I don't know her name.
Literally what I told him yesterday.
Maybe not a great idea. Good thing my wife, I don't think, listens to the show. We won't tell her that. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not tell her.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your recommendation?
Yeah. So here's the beautiful thing about having more bedrooms is there's a whole lot of clinicians right now that are traveling in groups, and you'll see this like all the time. You probably see this. There's a lot of millennials that will hang out, or Gen Zers that will go in, bust ass for like 3 months, as a travel medical professional, and they're coming in 3 or 4 nurses, and then they're jamming out to Ibiza for a month, and then they're coming back, busting ass again for 3 to 6 months, going to Europe for another month. This is a trend I've been seeing now for probably, what year are we in? 2022? Probably for about, well, pandemic kind of screwed that up. Probably since 2019, I've been seeing a lot of like these groups and travelers coming together. So, and it's even happening before that, but there's a lot of families that show up for this. There's doctors that come on assignment, residents that come in groups. So if you niche down, and I hate the word niche, by the way, if you niche down into more of this kind of category, you're able to get those select type of people. And I think those niche markets, which is travel medical professionals is one, but you're able to niche it down even more to get groups together. You have way more of an opportunity, especially that's something you bring up to recruiters as you're talking to them saying, hey, who's your next traveler that's coming with their family or friends, or they're coming in groups, because these recruiters know everything that's happening, and that's where you start building the relationships. Hey, I got this property that can house 3 different individuals. It's 2,000 square feet. They get their own space. 2 of the rooms have their own bathrooms. Yada yada yada. You give your unique selling point on it's 2 minutes from the hospital. We got bikes in the backyard. I'm talking too fast, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? You get all that information.
So we should, I guess we shouldn't be, so maybe I should be afraid of 2 people in the same place that don't know each other, but there's still a market for someone that may want to afford to. It's not like too large of a property.
Yeah, you don't want to do the don't know each other thing. That's a huge liability. And I could tell you that now. I've had students that have had literally crazy issues, and I'm not going to go into detail about it unless you want to, but you don't want to, you don't want to mix folks in the place. I personally don't. There are successful people that do that. I just don't want that liability.
Okay.
Neither do you,
Good
Craig.
to know, man.
Neither does your mustache. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my big question because it's really about me. But I want to know how you go into analyzing a new area. And I don't know if you have to do this that much because you seem to just buy in your area, which is smart. But I tell people that I have like investor ADD and I just own in a lot of different markets. And so we have this long-term rental that is coming available at the end of the month. And we're like, should we fly out and furnish it? So what are the couple of things that you look at? I mean, obviously we went to Furnish Finder. We looked at what we think we can make as just a baseline. But how do you know if there's enough demand?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would say is go deep, not wide. And what I mean by that is grow in your specific market, because the more recruiters you can connect with, the more folks you connect with, you can actually create a sustainable business that has deep roots and that will last. Yeah. I mean, 2015, this is how many years now that I've been able to grow here in this market. If you go wide, you have to like always be reaching out unless you want to rely on Furnish Finder and Airbnb and all this other stuff. So my first suggestion would go deep in your specific market and not, kind of jump all over the place. But I start looking at how many hospitals there are in the market. You're going to want to look at that. You're going to look how many people, you want to do just the traditional stuff that you normally would do. What's the growth looking like for the next 5 years? How many people are expected to be there? Just the basic principles that you would typically use when you're investing in a market. You want to look at what colleges that you have in that market that have RNs, that can graduate as RNs. You want to see how many folks are in that space. You want to find out what the ratio for hospitals versus clinicians that are full-time versus clinicians that are travel. You need to find that out. There's usually a ratio, and it could be 10, 20, 30, 40%. In my market, it's 40%, which is crazy high. And this is also like similar to New York and Florida and some other markets that have this similar type of situation. So that's what I do first. I'll really kind of scout what the market is, how many clinicians are there. I'll look at furnishfinder.com/stats. That will give me a demand market, how many folks are actually traveling there. But then I do the Indeed thing. I see who's hiring in that specific market. I go into Monster Jobs. So it's like a whole, I mean, we don't have enough time to like dive into exactly what I do because it's quite a bit of work to find new markets. But again, my suggestion is go deep, not wide.
Okay, so then let me ask a more specific question. If you're looking at a hospital, I get that it has to be like trauma level 1 or 2 ideally, but then is there a certain number of beds that make you feel like, okay, after 150 beds, this is a sizable hospital and it might be okay, or is there really nothing like that?
Yeah, so I have a level 3 hospital. It's in Lodi, California. I have a property in Lodi, and this hospital, it gives me a ton of travel medical professionals. So it doesn't have to be level 1 or 2. Again, it goes back to the demand. So Lodi Adventist Hospital has a 60% travel nurse to 40% full-time RN ratio. And these numbers they've changed since the pandemic. There's a lot more travelers since the pandemic. So this isn't just like a post-pandemic story, just FYI. There's always been the need for travel medical professionals since many years, which is why Furnish Finder has become so popular in a lot of ways. I don't know where I'm going with this. I think I kind of just lost my train of thought. But what was your question again?
How many beds? Is that something that you look at as like how many beds?
It does. So like most hospitals I look for.
You can just search it. So I'm trying to do the things that I don't have to like directly call yet.
Yeah, 300 beds is like typically where I want to be at, and that is not including labor and delivery beds. So typically there's a portion of the hospital which will be specifically the beds count labor and delivery. You want to find out just exactly how many beds there are, excluding labor and delivery.
Okay.
ICU beds are important too. We talked about the ratio when it comes to nurses per patient. So the more ICU beds, the likelihood that there's going to be more turnaround for travel professionals.
Okay, I'm gonna dig in because our market has 288 beds, level 2. So yeah, just gotta do a little more research. I mean, my idea is that it's gonna freaking work, but my partner is a little more careful than I am.
Jesse, are there what are the thresholds that you look for? Like, is there like a minimum ICU beds, or is there like is it a hard number, or is it like a per capita number? Like, what are your thresholds?
Yeah, so I'll just give you guys an example right now. So California, Texas, Illinois, North Carolina, Florida, and New York are the top underserved states in the U.S. that don't have enough clinicians per capita per patient. So, and the National Registry for Travel Medical Professionals and the SIA, which is a organization that basically kind of captures how much travel medical professionals are needed, they're saying that those states are not going to be to the pre-pandemic levels until 2030. So if you're in one of those states, you have a good opportunity to build an actual sustainable business for the next 7 to 10, 8 years. But yeah, I think that, Craig, to answer your question, the bed count is going to be important. You got to need to look at how many you got to call. Like at the end of the day, you got to make these calls and ask these questions. And a lot of times when you call the main hospital line, it's going to be somebody that's retired that answers the phone, that is just there working as a you need to get actually a hold of the HR department and actually ask them questions that are pertinent to the hospital, because they're going to be able to give you real-time information. There's a lot of volunteers that work in hospitals, and they're typically the ones that are picking up the phones.
Okay. And so is there like a count that you look for in terms of like, you call and like they say, okay, there's 500 beds. Is that like, okay, great? Or or is it just like, like, how do I know 500 beds is a lot or a little?
Yeah, well, you have to go back and 500 beds is a lot. Like I said, 300 is kind of where I'm looking at mostly, but you got to go back to what we talked about earlier, is that what's the hospital ratio for full-time clinicians to travel medical professionals? The HR department's going to have all that information. So you basically got to dive deep and figure out what that hospital is actually doing. You keep your ear to the ground, you realize how they're operating, and that's going to give you a way better understanding that you can have a hospital that has 150 beds like Adventist, in Lodi, which is not a lot of beds at all, and that's including labor and delivery. But they have a 60% travel medical professional ratio. With half of their hospital, more than half their hospital is travel medical professionals. And it's a little tiny town in the middle of freaking Sacramento and Modesto. So you can do this anywhere. You just have to like really dive in deep, and you have to really understand what you're actually doing. Because we're talking about all this stuff right now. I came from the medical background for 17 years, so it's like a totally different world. So I think that's something that I need to translate too, is that a lot of times I talk about this stuff, but this is like many years of experience to understand the healthcare sector and how it works and how to actually get these questions answered and things like that. So go ahead,
You're
Craig.
much older and wiser than you look, Jesse.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
no,
know.
look at
He's
this,
got a
guys.
baby face.
Yeah.
Look at this, guys. I got a lot of
Yeah.
gray hair going right here. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nah.
so do
That's why
I.
you gotta keep the hat on. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta keep. Look, my hair's even falling out. Look at this, guys.
Oh, look at
Holy smokes.
yeah.
I'm
Hair
balding
on
now.
this episode.
Yeah, you're balding even
Dude,
more. There's not much to
guys.
lose. Um,
Oh,
Jesse,
man.
all right. So if I'm just gathering this correctly, like just to kind of hear your story, you know, kind of recap it a little bit. You started in 2015. You saw a need for travel nurses. You met that need, and clearly were super profitable for it. And you basically just like systematically bought one or two a year since 2015, and that's how you get your portfolio. Like, there's no raising crazy money. There's no anything like that. Like, how are you making your money like actively? Because I suspect you're living on more than $24,000 a year.
Yes. Yeah, I'm moving. So I actually quit my W-2 job July 17th last year, you guys. So I'm actually a living, working, breathing human that doesn't rely on a W-2 job anymore. So yeah, I make really good money. And you guys can make really good money just off of 2 or 3 properties with a solid foundation with travel agencies. You don't have to rely on them. They'll feed you clientele, and the insurance industry is another totally different thing that we didn't really dive into. Maybe I can come back on and talk about that at some point. But yeah, now I'm actually diving into more of like a syndication type thing. I'm actually raising money right now to find specific markets where we can actually raise capital, buy in Ohio, 20 units, get contracts, and then kind of build on that. And so I have a whole team on the back end now that is doing data mining calls, and we're actually putting together, it's already together, but we're going to roll it out next year, where say, Craig, you're buying in Omaha, Nebraska, and you're like, hey, I'm going to buy here, but I need to get contracts. Well, we're already going to get those contracts for you. So you would just basically plug and play. You'd pay us. We'd give you contracts. So I'm I've created a kind of a science out of this, and I'm now teaching other folks how to do this, but my backend team is doing a lot of the data mining and grabbing information, pulling information, making phone calls, and creating an actual business out of this. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
Okay, I get this question a lot, so I'm curious what you think. And it might be just different because your market might not have as many multifamily properties, but people are like, oh, do the nurses or the insurance companies prefer a single family home over a duplex or quad over a condo? What would you say to that? Does it really matter?
Yeah. So single family homes you're always going to make more money off of them. It's just the single family homes, people have the insurance portion that they have. So the way the insurance companies work, they give you a percentage of whatever your house is worth to stay into a property. So if I had $1 million property, I'm going to be staying in the same or similar property. So it's $1 million. Somebody that's in an apartment complex or and it has like a leak or something, they're going to put them in something very same and similar. So that's why you kind of want to be very specific about what you're buying. And all the midterm rentals that I buy now, I have the same kind of like sexiness that you have in short-term rentals. I'm also in the short-term rental space. I've been in the short-term rental space since 2017. So that sexiness that you would typically get from a short-term rental, I put those in the midterm rentals. And keep in mind, you guys, a lot of these clinicians sometimes will want to walk the properties before they actually book them. Not always, but it does happen. When you do contracting with agencies, they will do that. We'll have doctors that will say, hey, they want to come check it out first. So if your place isn't like you open the door and they're just like, I want to be here, then the likelihood of you having a specific, agency that's going to work with you might be a lot smaller than if you just like, had a room with 4 rooms or 4 walls, a room and a TV. Like that doesn't work anymore. You got to be very intentional with what you're putting together, put the guest in mind. I think that's going to be really important going forward in this space too, as it gets more and more popular.
So it's funny that you say 2017. I'm just thinking that's when My Bigger Pockets came out. Did I influence your short-term rental game over there, buddy?
No, actually, I don't know if you
Okay.
guys know who Richard Fertig is. Do you guys know who Richard
Sure
Fertig
don't.
is? You don't?
No.
Yeah, you guys got to check him out. So I learned a lot of stuff from him. He's a check him out. He's a very smart guy. Kind of was really early in the Airbnb space, creating a ton of business. But Zion, I didn't hear your episode. I'm gonna have to go back and take a listen.
That's okay. That stuff's dated at this point, but that's
Is
cool.
it?
Well, I mean, I think things change a lot. Well, Craig, I know
They
you had
do.
a question, so let's let you ask your question.
Yeah, my question is more kind of like, so, clearly you built a business model that works and now you're scaling it into more multifamily, raising money, yada, yada. Like, what kind of returns are you offering your investors? Because obviously it's a little bit more risky than the traditional. So, and you're also making a lot more
Yeah.
money. Um,
Yes, correct. Yeah, so our underwriting is it's different. Typically we have to underwrite based off of long-term rents, but we're doing right now, we're looking at 2xing what long-term rent is. So we're giving percentages and dividends depending on the amount of income that's coming into the property. So we're just starting to do this right now. I haven't actually funded anything. We're just putting this together now. So we have a group right now. We've already raised, I think, 300,000, and we're trying to buy some units in Kansas. And it's a 20 unit complex. And so we're basically kind of going through this whole fund right now. Go
okay,
ahead,
Jesse,
Greg.
I've got a question for you, and it could be total BS,
Yeah.
but this is how my understanding of commercial and how it works, right? So let's say you're buying that 20 unit complex in Kansas City. Um,
hmm
right now, it's each property, each unit is $1,000 a month, so it's $20,000 a month of net income times
hmm
whatever 12 months, $240,000 a year. So let's say that at a cap rate, it's $1 million place. If you raise the rents, double the rents, are you also basically doubling or even more so the property using that cap rate? Like, is that like a value
Yeah.
add play, right? Like, is that how I would think of it? Because like that would be crazy amount of wealth building.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly what it is. So, but the problem with this is, Craig, we have to get the contracts ahead of time. And we
Hmm.
know that those contracts are going to be solid so that when we get the investment funds, we already have a pro forma put together. We know how much money we're going to get per door. We know how often travelers are coming. We know what seasonality there's to it, because there is seasonality to travel medical professionals, just so you guys know. A lot of times during the winter season, they're not traveling as much because they're staying home with family, Christmas, all that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind if you guys are looking at, housing travel medical professionals. So yeah, and essentially what you're saying, that's absolutely correct. You can double that. But again, the banks aren't looking at it like that. They're looking at the basic underwriting of what a long-term rental would be.
Okay.
And we're just coming in on top of that with yeah.
So if you were to resell it, then it wouldn't necessarily be like a massive increase in equity because even
No,
the banks and the investor, like the next investor might look at it that way too.
So here's what I love about this, and I need everybody to really pay attention that's listening to this right now. When you create a business to business relationship, that is 100% sellable. We all think about our properties right now. Do you guys want to be midterm renting for the rest of your lives? Like, I don't want to be midterm renting forever. Zion, I know you don't either. So when you have an
Maybe. I
asset
don't
like
know.
business to business relationships, it's not as much work as short term
It's not
rentals,
too
but
bad.
check this out.
No.
Smart money right now, you guys. Smart money is in Wall Street money, right? Guess what Wall Street's doing right now? Because the stock market's shit. And can I cuss on here? I just did. You guys maybe can bleep it out. But smart money is actually buying. They're getting in the midterm rental space. So if you guys know like REITs, you guys know what REITs are, right? Everybody potentially knows what real estate. Okay. So they're actually starting to midterm rent. They're listing properties on Furnish Finder now. And these smart money is going in buying these REITs specifically that are midterm renting. And these are you guys can go on Google right now and type this in. They're buying the Dart family. So the Dart family is the folks that created the styrofoam cup. They're actually buying short-term and midterm rentals right now. Like folks that are not even in this space are spending billions of dollars to buy this type of stuff. So right now, you guys, we're so early in the game. Like Airbnb's been around since 2007. We're like since we're in the playoffs, baseball terms. I'm a big baseball fan. We're like in the fifth inning with Airbnb, right? With the midterm rental space, like we're just chalking the floors right now. Like the umpires haven't even walked the field yet. So imagine knowing how big Airbnb is, and we're barely getting into the space with midterm rentals. Like it's going to be that these will be its own asset class at some point. Midterm rentals will be an asset class. I promise you. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. It's happening with the smart money now. They're realizing that they're seeing the opportunity. So everybody listening right now, if you create an actual sustainable business, to answer your question, Craig, yeah, I can sell this as an actual legitimate business with the contracts, with the property, cash flowing. That's my exit strategy. That's everything that I'm putting together is to sell to some bigger smart money type person that's just like, hey, we want this. You got contracts put together. And anybody in business realizes that that's where the opportunity's at. It's not what you're doing now. You don't want to do this forever. You want to have an exit strategy. And that's
I love that.
Okay, so we're wrapping towards the end before we switch into the final part of our show. But I am curious, you're saying that you want to lock in the contracts ahead on these 20 units. So how far in advance are people putting out the contracts? Are you hearing about it months in advance?
No, so sometimes we have folks that are doing contracts. Are you talking about the travel professionals coming, or you're talking about the contract?
Whatever contracts. I mean, I think you were saying that you had to have all the contracts lined up because I guess you're going to use those as part of the maybe the lending portion or being able to do the pro forma.
So I have a big book of business already. I think right now we have about 23 agencies that we're contracted with, and these are small, large-scale independent hospitals. And this is just in, California, Central California. I have properties in San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland. So we've kind of, like we were talking about the roots here. But with the other markets, I want to make sure that we build. I'm letting them know exactly what we're doing. I'm pitching them on the phone. Hey, we have yada, yada, yada here in California. We have, 27 units that we're operating. We built a big business here based on around travel medical professionals. We're doing the same now with this 20 unit complex. We want to be the housing solutions provider for hospital A, hospital B, hospital C. This is the routes that we're making. This is how we're building this. So just as I talked about earlier, when we had only one property, you have the same concept that goes when you have multiple properties put together and you're buying in a specific market. What I've already done is there's already like a pro forma behind it. So I'm able to go to these companies and say, hey, here's how I operate. This is what I've been doing. Here's the margins that we're working on. Here's how I've been connecting and connecting with these recruiters. We built a really big business on this space. Now we want to do it in Kansas. How can we work together? That's essentially what we're doing. Even though we're not there yet, we're still building based off of our, what we did in the past with the other agencies.
Nice. All right, so let's transition to the final part of our show. But before we do, God, I just have like the stupidest accent right now. Before we do,
don't you know?
Don't you know?
Midwestern.
Don't you know?
Do you have any final words of wisdom for people that are like maybe on the fence about getting into this space?
Yeah, just do it. Like Nike says, the more that you overcomplicate stuff, the more difficult it's going to be. I think in this space, you have to just like literally jump in, and you might not know it all at the beginning, but you'll figure it out. And I think that's the most important part, is just like educating yourself. I know there's not a lot of education in this space right now. The midterm rental market is emerging. So just learn as much as you can, read books, read 30-Day Stay, go on YouTube, watch as much midterm rental stuff as you can, and really educate yourself in this market, because it is growing. It's still new. It's still emerging, and it will become an asset class. So just jump into it. That's all I could say.
I love it. Yeah, you still have the opportunity to be an early adapter. Like we are giving to you
100%.
This handing it on a platter. So, think about it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Craig, it's time for
the final
four.
Z, kick us
Jesse,
off.
we actually have sounds that we're hoping our editors put in, but we don't know, so we just make weird sounds too.
Yeah. All right, cool.
So, question number one for you. What are you reading right now? Not sure if you're a reader, but what are you reading?
Right now, I just read the E-Myth again. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the E-Myth. Have you read that book? Yeah, so I'm going through that again because I'm spending way too much time in my I have a management company, and I'm spending way too much time in there, and I'm trying to figure out how the heck to exit that, because we do daily calls, and I'm going back to that book. It's always been something that has kind of taught me how to exit where I'm currently at. I need to. Here's the reality and the truth, you guys. Everybody listening to this. Do everything that you're uniquely qualified to do. You are specifically uniquely qualified to do. Everything else needs to be passed off to other folks that can do things that you aren't necessarily uniquely qualified to do. So now I'm in that mindset that everything that only I can do, I'm going to do, and everything else I'm passing off, is essentially what that book is about. And I'm going back through it again.
Great.
Love it. And also, I love that. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to start doing that too, is actually go through books that I've already read and dive deep and actually take notes and take action on each book. Because what's the point of a book if you can't take action on it?
Yeah, I agree. I do that too. Like I'll read a book or listen to a book, which I'm not really good at listening to books. It's hard for me to do that. I don't know about you guys, but I like to actually read before bed, like an old man, just because it's kind of what I am. But yeah, I mean, we read books, but then we'll just read them and be like, oh, okay, cool. I took one thing out of there, but like read each chapter. Now I'm like highlighting stuff and I'm really paying attention to it. I have a little journal. I write that stuff in there, and I'm kind of really referencing back the book that I'm reading and
Oh my
really
God, you
taking
guys are
time
like
to
little
dive deep.
boyfriends. Exactly
Yeah.
the
I
same.
know,
I
Craig.
love
Jesse,
it.
yeah, do you want to I mean, okay. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received. Jeez Louise. You guys are killing me right now. Hang on. The best of advice that I've ever received would probably be my dad, who anytime anything negative happened or bad happens, he always says something good will come of this. And that is 100% true. I feel like anytime anything negative happens to our lives, we're just like, shit, why did this happen? I lost my job. And a lot of those times, it's like, that's where you get to ladder up. You get to be that next person, that next job, that next career. And anytime anything potentially negative happens to us, we tend to dwell on that stuff. So for me, I think that advice was just like, there's always something better around the bend. And I 100% agree to that.
Awesome. All right, question number 3. What is your why? What keeps you going?
Yeah, I love building stuff from the ground up, you guys. I think I should probably be a venture capitalist. I like watching things that are nothing become something. So I think my why base is based around, I have kids, like I love my kids, and usually that's everybody's why is like my kids. I do love my kids, but I love watching things come to fruition. Like thoughts that I have will become projects that will become things. So for me, my why is basically creating something out of nothing that eventually is running its own wheels and business and whatnot, that I can eventually hand over to my kids to be able to take over at some point. If you guys watch the show Succession, hopefully my kids aren't like that at all. You guys haven't watched HBO Succession? Are you serious?
Sorry, we just, like,
These are
don't
two
watch
business
TV.
guys.
We don't watch TV.
Oh
you know?
my
TV's
man,
for
what do you guys
nerds.
do? Just like listen to music all day or what? Like what's going on? Podcast, reading books all the time? No TV?
Dude, I know. I've been just studying Jesse. Jesse's been my TV lately. I've
Yeah,
been
I
listening
just
to all
don't-
your
I don't even- we don't
podcasts,
even
like
have a
watching
TV
your
in our
YouTube
house.
channel.
Yeah.
You don't have a TV, Craig?
No.
Dude, are you
No TV.
serious? How do you like get
Yeah.
out of your head? Like okay, you guys, real quick before I know this show's like I'm nerding out on this. Like TV is how I get out of my head. I'm in my head 24/7. Like we all are. Like I think so much, you guys. Like it drives me nuts. Like I can watch a TV show for an hour a night. Like I watch TV only at night, by the way. And I get out of my head because I'm like always consistently thinking about stuff.
Decompressing.
And that's like the only way that it's maybe that's just my
We'll think about
decompression.
it.
I exercise.
Come on, guys,
and
watch
I do
Succession.
crossword puzzles. That's like my
Yeah.
meditation.
Also
my-
an old
my
man.
type thing. Yeah, I love my crossword puzzles
Oh
and my
my
tea at night.
god.
So
Do you have like a monocle too, or what? What's going on over here, man?
yeah, that's what it's right now. Yeah, it's part of the feather that I write with. Yeah.
Your ink pen? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my ink pen. All right, Jesse, last question we're going to ask you. If you were immortal for a day, what would you do?
Man, are you guys serious with this question? Can't you just ask me if I like pineapple on my pizza?
No, pineapple.
Come
pizza's
on,
great,
dude.
so
Really?
I
everyone
love
knows that.
pineapple pizza. Yeah, okay.
Oh my god, me too. Immortal for a day. Are you serious, Craig?
I can
All
ask
right,
you
I'm gonna give
different
you a
one,
little
but it's gonna be
thinking time
harder.
because what I would do is just jump off high shit because I'm like super afraid of heights because I just think of death.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, death.
Yeah.
But if I knew I wouldn't die, that'd be cool. Curious what that was
Yeah,
like.
I feel like I would jump high, go to outer space, like do all that
Yeah,
shit.
that's what I was
and
gonna
then,
say right
like,
now.
And then go down into the ocean
The ocean.
and like
Yeah.
go to the bottom of the ocean and like see what the hell's down there. I think
So
that's
you
what I
guys
would
just gave me literally gave me my answer because that
do. Well,
question.
no, now
I
you
never
need a
asked,
better
you guys caught
answer
me off
because
guard.
that's what you get for waiting. Now you got
Yeah.
I'd
to
probably
it's
like
harder
fly
to wait.
around.
Hey
I'd
Jesse,
probably
something
fly
good will
around.
come of
I
this.
figured that out. Yeah, I know. You know what I do, Craig? I would strap a seat to a 747 on the very top, and I'd just take off, and that's what I would do,
Oh,
like literally every
okay.
day. If I was
sounds
You
immortal.
would literally fly.
terrible.
Is that good?
Dope. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'd put like some
Thanks,
big
Jesse.
giant goggles on.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Okay. Perfect.
And I do like
Well,
pineapple
we'll-
pizza, by the way. I know you guys didn't ask me that, but hey, you know what? I'm giving it out there. I like
I like
burgers.
pineapple
What else, you
pizza.
guys?
We'll have to get together sometime and put some pineapple on pizza and have a day.
Let's do
Um,
it.
Oh man.
All right,
I'm
Jesse, where can
excited.
people find out more about you? Do you got an Instagram? Do you got anything you're selling? If we want to learn more about the medium term rental, and clearly you built something that works here.
Yeah, you guys can find me at the real Jesse Vasquez on Instagram. You can also find me on YouTube, Jesse Vasquez on YouTube. I talk about a lot of this stuff on there, and yeah, I have a master class that I teach folks specifically how to do what I've done, and how to create an actual business out of the business to business relationships, not only just for the healthcare sector, but for um, multiple different construction companies. I mean, literally any type of midterm rental. You know what? Can I leave the audience with one quick thing before I get out of here?
Sure.
An actionable step that somebody could take. You guys have an extended stay in your market, like an extended stay hotel. They're typically the agencies that have these huge corporate contracts with like Dave and Buster's, all these construction companies. Everybody listening to this right now, if you want to grow your midterm rental portfolio, drive by there at 7 p.m. at night, get your camera out, your iPhone, and take a picture of every truck that's out there parked. Call in the morning those agencies, those trucks, and say, hey, I'm a corporate housing provider. I see that you have these agencies that are parked at this extended stay. I want a corporate contract with you guys. I have a 5-bedroom house. What are you guys paying right now for your agencies? I've got contracts specifically like that just by doing that. Easy way to do it. And you can make like 4x what you typically would make long term.
I love that Jesse's just like creeping by the extended stay. Like 7 o'clock taking video. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Do you have like a white van that's like blacked out, that's kind of like rusted on the side?
Actually, it's a 1974 Winnebago. Yeah, I do. I drive by at night. Exactly what I do. But you know what, you guys? That's a good way to get corporate contracts, and you can make literally 3 to 4x what your long-term rent would be, because these construction companies, they're housing like 5, 6, 7 dudes, and they're all staying in their own hotels, and they're paying $700 a day for 30 days. Do the math on that, you guys. So if you have a property that you're renting for a quarter of that, I mean, that's a win-win. You might have, yeah, exactly. I mean, construction dudes can be a little harsh sometimes, but I mean, the capital is what as well, and your housing folks.
Hey, and if something breaks, they can fix it, hopefully. So
that's right.
Exactly. I've had that happen before, by the way.
Yeah,
it's funny you brought
awesome,
that up,
Jesse. Well, dude, thanks for dropping so many bombs on the show, man. It's so good to get to know you.
Thank you, guys.
To see you again, and we'll
yeah,
have to get
you
together
forgot
for some
about
pineapple
me.
pizza soon.
Yeah, now you're gonna remember me, Craig. You're not
I will
gonna
never
forget me
forget you
man.
now. You've left a mark now, permanently branded right here. So, all right, man.
Awesome, dude.
We'll
Thanks, man.
catch you later. See ya.
Okay, bye, guys.
And that was Jesse Vasquez, Z Money. What'd you think of Jesse?
I love this. I mean, like, we had a cancellation for today's show, and I was like, oh, we got to get Jesse on, and he was gracious enough to be super last minute and come on. But I felt like this was almost just purely for you and me, Craig, where we were like asking all these questions because real time, we're both on the verge of going, do we do medium term rental with something that you're under contract for, something that we already own and we think we could do twice as good with? So yeah, it was just really exciting to get questions answered. And I feel like I could have talked to him for like a whole couple more hours. There's just a lot of info.
I feel like Jesse is a wealth of information and we only scratched the little tip of the surface here. But he still left us with a lot of good nuggets that I know I'm going to take away. And now I have to go have a harder conversation with my wife about how she may have been wrong. It's always a hard conversation to have. But I'll bring it up nicely, of course. But yeah, no, I think he offers some great stuff. And it just really shows that the medium term space, like it really is a space that I think is going to be up and coming. And especially as people become more and more nomadic. We had Sarah Weaver on the show a few weeks ago. Zeona, like you're a customer of extended stay type places as well. Like it's not just travel nurses, right? It's contractors. He was talking about insurance, people getting displaced from their homes if there is a fire or they're doing big work to their house. There's so many reasons for people to need a place to stay, and there's no options for them except crappy extended stay hotels, right? And so, I think it's definitely a space that is going to really come up here in the next 5 to 10 years, and we're in the forefront of it, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, and there's an extended stay place like literally walking distance, so I'm gonna go over there with my freaking camera.
You should totally put that on your Instagram
and then put it on my stories.
Yeah, definitely do that. We should do that. We should have like next time we're together, Z, we should go do that.
Yeah, we'll dress all in black and be like hiding in the bushes.
We'll put our ski masks on and like snapping pictures, and people will be like, and then
what
we'll
are you
realize
doing?
that we're just harmless real estate investors.
That's true.
All right, Z, anything else you want to leave everybody with before we head out for this week?
Guys, if you need a real estate agent in any market, we know a lot of great ones and we vet a lot of agents. We send a lot of referrals all over the country. So get in touch with either Craig or I, and we can help you save just a lot of headache by going in with a vetted great team. And if you loved our show, please share it with somebody. I think even better, we love ratings and reviews, but actually saying, hey, you really need to hear this show, that means so much. And it means that people will probably actually take your advice. So share it with your friends, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.